It's time for Mac Geek Gab, and Randy Walker brings us our quick tip of the week. If you have an iPhone Pro, did you know, I didn't, that you could go into Settings, Camera, Fusion Camera, and in there, you get to control which lenses your iPhone Pro uses. You get to decide whether it's using the 28mm, the 35mm, and then which lens is the default, the 24, the 28, or the 35. Amazing stuff. Who knew? Evidently, Randy Walker knew, but I did not. More tips like this, plus your questions answered today on Mac Geek Gab 1077 for Monday, February 17th, Analog to Digital TV Day 2025. Woohoo! Greetings, folks, and welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where we share your quick tips like that. We share your cool stuff found. We share your questions and hopefully some answers, or at least a path to take next. All with the goal of each of us learning at least 5 new things every single time we get together. And when we do, sometimes we even play that bell. Sponsors for this episode include barebones.com, which is BBEdit, a fantastic little text editor that I have open all the time. Indochino.com, where you can use code MGG to get 20% off any purchase of $4.99 or more. And Coda.io/MGG, where you can sign up for free and get the one dock to rule them all. We'll talk more about each of those in a little bit, and we're doing something not unique. We've done it before, but we're bringing it back to experiment. Let us know. Instead of doing all 3 ads at once, we're going to pepper them in throughout the episode individually. So we'll see how that goes. We all get to experiment with this together. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in South Dakota, I'm Adam Christensen.
And here also in New Hampshire, it's Pilot Pete, where Police Code 1077 is directing traffic at a fire. And boy, did it feel like a fire this morning getting ready. What a zoo, huh? But
I don't know what you're talking about, Pete.
Yeah, well,
I had no issues over here.
Yeah, Adam, you better knock on some wood, Adam.
Right on, brother.
Jinxed it.
Yeah. I also see that code 1077 is estimated time of arrival, which was in question for at least 2 of us today. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I woke up to a power failure, which was it was off long enough that even my UPCs went UPSs went well with UPC codes on the back went bad and died, and it took me a while to get my internet to play nicely again once the power came on, and my Synology still isn't playing nicely. So.
Your woes this morning, because I asked you, I was like, well, don't you have a UPS on your router? And you do, and it only lasted like an hour or something, which makes sense because you don't just have your router. You have, I presume, your Synology and other things on it. After going through that a few times, I made the executive decision and the executive purchase at my place to have 2 separate UPSs, one that runs all of the very low draw equipment, like the router, the switch that manages the network, the ONT or the cable modem, whatever those things are, just the very, very low power stuff. And then a second one that runs like my Synologies and all those other things that are sitting in the same spot. And that'll run my router for, 8-10 hours because it just doesn't, it's a very low draw.
Right.
And it with the fiber connections that we have here, the ONTs don't necessarily ever recover gracefully from a power failure, in that the order in which things come back up seems to matter, and it's ever changing. It's like I joke, the streets in Boston change directions at dark. There's something about what happens when the ONT powers up. It just changes. The rules change all the time.
Seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do have two UPSs, but the small one, which I had the router and the ONT on, apparently didn't last either. So
got it. Are you already doing it? All right.
Yeah. Well, I need to go spend the money and buy two big ones. And
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
what are you going to do? I think we should go to quick tips.
Dive into some tips. I have one from Dr. Lee here. Dr. Lee says, OMG! I just learned that you can initiate a shortcut on an iPad using a keyboard combination by utilizing the keyboard shortcuts in the Shortcuts app. Here's how to set it up. 1. Create your shortcut. 2. Assign a keyboard shortcut by opening Settings on your iPad, going to Accessibility, Keyboard, Full Keyboard Access, and make sure that Full Keyboard Access is turned on. Then tap on Commands, scroll down to the Shortcuts section, or search for your specific shortcut by name, select your shortcut, and then press the keyboard combination you'd like to assign, for example, Command Option S. Then test your keyboard shortcut. Exit the settings and return to any screen. Use your chosen keyboard combination to trigger the shortcut. If set up correctly, the shortcut should run immediately.
Huh.
And you can do this with an existing shortcut. You could do it with a new shortcut. Now, there's a couple notes here, and I think these are very important. So he says, make sure you don't assign a combination that's already in use by another system command, because then you'll be confused. And then he says, I disabled, and I would really recommend this because turning on full keyboard access and accessibility does all kinds of things, but I think this is the important one. I disabled all of the default accessibility keyboard shortcuts in the basic, movement, and interaction categories. But look at all the cool stuff you can do in there. It's another place to like just see cool things that you can do with accessibility, but you need to be careful when you turn on, because full keyboard access has to remain on, which is an accessibility feature, which means your keyboard, if you don't turn off or don't know what it's doing, it could start to do a lot of weird things. And then you're in that tech support loop where you're like, why is this doing this?
Yeah.
I don't understand. And you forgot that you turned on full keyboard access and it's just behaving how you told it to behave, but didn't really understand. So good tip, but don't get caught with it either.
Yeah. That's a really, I like that. Huh.
Interesting.
What a smart way of approximating the things that we do on our Macs to our iPads, because we don't, at least not yet, get to run Keyboard Maestro or any of those other things, third-party utilities on our iPads. So, huh. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Do either of you use a keyboard with your iPads on the regular?
I did. I haven't been using my iPad as much, but it's probably because ever since I stopped doing my own podcast, I used to do a lot of my podcast prep on my iPad.
Really?
Sitting on the couch or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because it was just easier and more convenient, and battery lasted longer. I have an old laptop, so probably if I had a new MacBook Air or something like that, I'd tend to that. But my iPad Pro works great for that stuff.
That's I hadn't thought about this. I never used my laptop on the couch. I mean, never is the wrong word. I did not routinely use my laptop on my lap on the couch until I got my first Apple Silicon machine, which was an M1 Air. And then it was like, oh yeah, it's always there. I always would bring my iPad downstairs, and you're 100% right. It's battery life. I presume. Why else would I have changed that pattern? Yeah.
No, it for me, it totally was, because I could fold up the iPad, just set it, leave it there. If you do that with a power hungry Intel machine like I have, you'll pick it up the next day and the battery will be gone.
It's just dead.
It's dead. And then you're like, well.
Yeah. Huh.
And I've actually got the same answer Adam has, which is I did use a keyboard with my iPad. I don't anymore. The only iPad I have right now is the company issued one for navigation and such.
Sure.
So I don't have a keyboard for that one. When I was doing some office work for work, I had an iPad Pro and I had a keyboard on that and absolutely loved it. In fact, I loved it so much, I'm tempted to buy another iPad Pro and see if I can't plug a hub into that and do podcasting from the darn thing and be more portable. But then I've got this nice MacBook Pro, so I can't really justify.
Yeah, talk to or look at what Jason Snell does. I'm pretty sure he still does a lot of podcasting with his iPad, and I'm pretty sure Federico Viticci also does.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, there are people out there who do it, and plenty of resources. I can't. I'm too much of an audio freak to not have the level of control and flexibility that I get with a Mac, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. It's very much possible. It's just not.
Well, I figured as long as I can plug a nice microphone into it, should be good enough.
Yeah, I think the workflows that we use here for all the for the what's the right way to say this, for the catch and release podcasting style that we do, that you do less of it with, so there I was, but the record immediately, record and then release right away, or at least not a lot of post-production. Yeah. I don't know, and I truly mean this, I don't know, it's not that I'm suggesting it doesn't exist, but I don't know how I would employ things like noise gates in real time if I was recording on an iPad, or balancing levels and recording a stereo output if I was just recording on an iPad. Like, there's a lot of routing and weird things that I do in order to make my workflow work that the last time I looked, which was admittedly a very long time ago, those things were not possible on the iPad, just because even though it's core audio on the iPad, it's still, you don't get to do the third party things. You get to do what Apple lets you do. And so, so yeah, maybe that's the, I don't know. I should try that. All right, folks, picture this. You're launching a new project. Your vision is crystal clear, and miraculously, your team actually knows what's going on. No frantic Slack messages, no mystery spreadsheets last edited in 2019, just everything you need in one place. That is our sponsor, Coda. Coda combines the flexibility of docs, the structure of spreadsheets, and the power of applications all in one tab. No more bouncing between 27 different apps just to get things done. It's like finally realizing your Wi-Fi wasn't slow, you were just using dial-up. I use Coda to keep one of my other businesses running smoothly, and it's been a game changer. Don't get caught drowning in a sea of disconnected tools. More than 50,000 teams trust Coda to keep them more aligned and focused. To try it for yourself, go to coda.io/MGG today and get started for free. That's coda.io/MGG to get started for free. Coda.io/MGG. And our thanks to Coda for sponsoring this episode.
So, I think we have a semi-new category here. It's going to be, I'm going to call it Quicker Tips.
Okay.
Well, because last week we talked about it, and I had a special week last week. For those of you who may recall, I screwed up some notes, and I had a hard time. So Dave guided me through this one, where if you're in iOS Mail, you go to the three dots on the right, and you can choose categories or mail list view. And Darrin writes in, he says, look, if you like using the categories in iOS Apple Mail, but quickly want to see all mail, just double tap on any category and it more quickly changes to all mail view. And I'm like, dang, if that isn't the perfect quick solution to quickly seeing all the mail, but still being able to use your categories. And so that's a quicker tip. Is that cool or what?
You know, as you were saying this, I understood the tip. When I read it, I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me because I don't use categories. Yeah. But as you were saying it, I'm like, let me see what this is. And what I never realized, and I'm guessing I might not be the only one, is that when you tap that, if you're on primary and you double tap it, it brings you to all mail. But what it showed me is that there is an all mail category off the screen to the right. Yes. So if I'm on primary, I can scroll, kind of like slide to the left to expose that all mail category on the right. And perhaps that's even another quick tip is you just slide to the left. I feel like there's a song about this. But if you just slide to the left, you don't.
Hands now. Slide to the left.
I slide to the right. That's it. But that's it. Slide to the left. Slide to the right will bring you from all mail to your categories. You don't even have to double tap, like Darrin says. So there's a quicker tip of just the one slide on the phone.
So the quickest tip.
Well, I don't want to. As someone who just learned this 29 seconds ago, I don't want to say that we've gotten the fastest. That's interesting. I'm going to leave this on here, and I'm going to see what these categories look like for me, because I'm not convinced. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. Anyway, hey, I'm doing a podcast. How you doing, guys?
Hey, everybody. Welcome back, Dave.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. I like it. I like it. Bob has certainly a follow-up tip to something we discussed recently. He said, I have the same CalDigit TS3 Plus that you mentioned in 1074, and he says he sees it in pictures, and therefore he often puts it in a vertical orientation, and he finds it also gets warm. So, to mitigate that, he says, I put some 3/8-inch silicone adhesive feet on one side, and I now have my CalDigit in a horizontal orientation. The larger feet give lots of room under the CalDigit for ventilation. It's now 5.5 years old and still driving 2 4K external displays, gigabit Ethernet, and lots of USB-C and USB-A external devices. Fascinating. I love that idea of buying some of those generic feet.
Agenda, which is put feet on your dock to keep it cool. I'm thinking, how does standing on your dock keep it cool? I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, that's a good one, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yep.
All right. I got Steve. He has something that I think we'll have probably a little discussion about. So it might be not the quickest tip, but this is a great find for sure. Great tip. He said, I found the support article from a website I was reading recently, and we'll have a link to that support article so you can read all the details that we're going to get into. Apple is finally allowing us to migrate out purchases from the App Store from a secondary account to an iCloud account, a primary account. From what I can see, it works for apps for iPhone or iPad in the store, music, and movies. The only thing it does not transfer yet is things bought in the Mac App Store.
Oh.
I think it may happen soon now that they found a way to do it, but who knows when. In any case, it is a real step forward. And I'm going to just throw this out there because I know we have a global audience. When I clicked the link to the article, the very first thing right at the top, this feature isn't available to users in the European Union, United Kingdom, or India.
Aren't those the 3 places that
yes
that have their own that are allowed to have their own app stores, non-Apple? Okay.
Yeah. I think we can connect the dots here.
I'm connecting them. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, that'll be nice to eventually get to the point where when you start a new iPhone, you don't have to do 2 or 3 sign-ins just to get all your apps.
Yeah.
If you're one of those people. Yeah, I think this mitigates that problem, right, Adam?
Which, sorry.
The having to have a separate account for your apps versus your iCloud if you're one of those people that have been doing this as long as the rest of us. So yeah.
This is exactly, I mean, this is like for me, I have an old, well, it's not an old, it's an iCloud account I don't use anymore. So I have an iCloud account that I set up for myself, and we had to set one up for my wife because way back in the day, we just had a single one because that's how we did all of our Apple Music. It's all your media stuff, right? Like back in the day, you didn't have family accounts on iCloud. So if you were like sharing music libraries and all that stuff, we just had a shared iCloud account, which was for the longest time my primary account. And then at some point it was like, this is just a pain in the butt for iCloud reasons. We all need our own iCloud accounts. And so I created a secondary account for myself and one for my wife, and those became our iCloud accounts, but all our media purchases were still tied into that old one, right? So if you go into like your media, you can have different things for your apps. We have a different account for our App Store purchases, and that's the same one for our movie purchases and our book purchases, and so yeah,
so
this
you
is to
are
migrate away from those.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of caveats. People need to read that support article. Don't get caught again, because you need to understand what is going to happen. And also, and most importantly, like if you do in your other iCloud account, if you've ever used that for purchases or things, and there's things in that, the secondary account, when you migrate it over, is going to be replacing those other, it's not a migrating, it's moving stuff over. At least that's how it's described in this article. It doesn't seem like it merges those things.
There's not a, this is worth reading then. Okay. And I will point out that this article, we got this from listener Steve days ago, and we're talking about it now. This support article was updated the morning that we are recording, which is February 14th. And so this is an evolving thing, it seems.
Yes.
Yes.
So and read it through, because some things, it sounds like some things merge and some things replace. Like a very important one for me, like if I were to do this, because I thought, oh, this is great, I've been wanting to do this like forever. The secondary Apple account's podcast library data in the Apple Podcasts app, which I don't use that account for podcasts, I use my iCloud account for podcasts, will migrate and replace the podcast library of the primary Apple account.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, because you're merging that media account. Basically, like if you think of your secondary account as like your media purchases account, it's your
all right. Well,
Apple TV library, and same for like your history of all your TV watching and your up next queue and all that stuff will get.
Where are you finding this? Because I have that. I asked because
what happens when you migrate purchases, and there's several paragraphs, and it covers each thing. It covers your subscriptions. It covers your Apple TV account. It covers what's going to happen with your purchases, your app purchases, your subscriptions, all of these things.
We are looking at two different pages, because the one I'm looking at does not have a what happens when you migrate purchases.
Doesn't when you scroll down?
Nope.
Interesting. I wonder if that's with the update, because when I was reading it earlier, it did have what happens.
Oh, okay. Will one of you save a PDF of what you have, like in Safari file?
I still have it.
File export as PDF, because it seems like my version that was pulled up live as we're talking here does not
change it.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Maybe I don't have a what happens.
Because that was a great paragraph.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Unless it was
I'm
wrong.
going to put this link in the Discord that I have. I don't know if it's different. It shouldn't be. It should be the one from our notes.
If you could save it as a PDF, don't refresh.
No.
Oh, I'm not refreshing. I will.
No. This is a different article. Okay, so there are two articles. There's the one that I had found was migrate purchases from one Apple account to another. And then there is an article called About Migrating Apple Account Purchases Between Accounts. And this is what happens. And yeah, okay, great. So they did not take this away. Whew. All right, good. Then we will put both in the show notes, and we will all read all of it before we, before we.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, I think this is great, but just make sure you understand, and you can also apparently undo it too. So
really, oh,
yeah.
okay.
The same article, if you scroll down, it says if you want to undo purchases and what happens when you undo a migration of your purchases.
Huh.
So,
all right, this is great. Okay, so there's a lot of reading to be done here to make sure that for your specific scenario, this is the right move versus the wrong move. I never had to, but Lisa did. And there was a good reason why at the time. I think it was exactly this. It was before there was any sharing. She had bought more things than I had, or she had bought stuff for the kids, or I forget. And so we all just signed in with hers, and then eventually, obviously, there was sharing was allowed. But now she has to be signed in as two. So this theoretically would solve for her. But I can't tell you how excited I am to, on Valentine's Day, no less, start a merge/migration/replacement of my wife's primary iCloud account. This sounds like such a great way to spend Valentine's Day.
Well, you got an attorney on retainer, right, Dave? Just to be clear.
I do. Not that kind of attorney, Pete.
Yeah, well, you know.
at a root level, just at a high level, I can say, like reading through it, it seems like purchases and those sorts of things will merge, subscriptions will kind of merge. But what happens is all of that, like, data of, your watch history, your music history, your music social profile, all that stuff is going to get replaced on your primary device with what was, quote unquote, your secondary device.
Yeah, I'll be eager to see what this process is like. And I'm trying to think if I have like some rogue account that I bought things with. I really don't think I do, but it would be great if, like Migration Assistant, if it said, do you want to migrate everything, or do you want to only migrate these things? And you had a set of checkboxes like that. And now, listen, I get that this is Apple trying to finally solve the problem that so many people have. This is I don't know if either of you remember, but like, we had this holy grail thing about having iChat with tabs, and we would say it with lots and lots of reverb. iChat with tabs, and that was a thing that we all wanted for a very long time, and then finally Apple added it. This is one of those things, right, where so many people have been asking for this. We get questions about it routinely, and it's like, yeah, sorry, there ain't no way, but go yell at Apple and eventually maybe and they did. But one of the reasons it took them so long is because it's a freaking mess of trying to figure out, like, what do you actually want and how do you want it? And the answer to that is different for everyone, and Apple knows that. And Apple as a company routinely stays away from scenarios where it becomes a customer support nightmare because not everybody wants the same thing, right? Like, this is why Apple doesn't have lots and lots of little nitty-gritty, nitpicky settings that you can change on all your devices, because people would change them and update their Etsy host file, and then suddenly, you don't know what to do. Sorry, Pete, I can't.
Yeah, but fortunately, you could always call Dave. I'll put his number in the show notes.
Yeah. People know how to find me, Pete. That's not an issue.
Well,
that's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, Dave never sleeps, so call him anytime.
It's true. It's fine. Email me anytime.
Text all the time at 2 a.m.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Let's say we move on to PorthosJon.
Yeah, we'll move on. We will revisit this as we have experienced it and as you have experienced it. Send in feedback at MacGeekGab.com. Any of your things, discuss it in our Discord at MacGeekGab.com/Discord. So, yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, send it to feedback at MacGeekGab.com.
Was that feedback at MacGeekGab.com?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Right. Yep. None of
and
us
he also
said that.
mentioned Discord, which is where PorthosJon put the next quick tip, which was, have you ever bought or gotten a used Mac or iOS device that is still locked to someone else's Apple ID? This happens to us at the office sometimes when a machine is returned and a former employee locked it to their Apple ID, MDM, which is the overall management, now fixes this, but for older machines, it can still be tough to release. Apple has a simple online form where you can request activation lock release now. It can take a few days. It used to take weeks, but I did one 2 hours ago and already received the release. Just go to HTTPS, so it's a link, AL, almost got me, Dave, AL-support.apple.com. You'll find in device serial number and your email with a CAPTCHA, and they email a customized link to a form that requests release. If you have the original purchase paperwork or other paperwork from a resale that you can upload, it goes really quickly. And it was one of those things I kind of knew about, only because my sister forgot the password, or so she thought, to her iMac, and that's when I looked up as well. You can get it unlocked if you have proof that it's your machine. So that's how I found out about it. Well, it turns out her keyboard was bad.
Oh.
Yeah. It was an iMac, and her keyboard was just, it had gone stupid.
Yeah.
And so it looked like it was typing stuff in, but it was typing in bad stuff.
Huh.
But
yeah, go figure. Yeah.
Prove it's your machine, and Apple will help you unlock it. So,
I always knew that Apple would help you. I did not realize you could. It was self-serve in a sense. I mean, you're like, they're still reviewing it, but you don't have to go to a Genius Bar or make a phone call. You can do it online. So, yeah.
Good reminder to just, avoid that altogether by remembering when you decommission an old device, you need to go through all those processes of decommissioning it, i.e. logging out of your iCloud account, turning off Find My, all those things, so that it doesn't end up being locked.
Yeah. Oh, wait. So when you decommission a machine, I thought you were going to say write your Apple ID and password on a sticky and put it in the machine. That's not the right thing.
No.
Okay, got it. Just thanks for the clarification. I get confused about this all the time. DJ Mac has a great travel quick tip for us. He says, call me crazy, but after many years of traveling, staying at hotels and rentals with unpredictable streaming capabilities, I finally thought, why don't I just bring my Apple TV with me? Head slap. It worked perfectly in a motel on the way to our recent destination and at the rental home at our destination. No more having to figure out how to use whatever the place has or scrunching together to watch something on my laptop. Better late than never. And this was in our Discord that DJ Max suggested this. I think it's a great idea. Robster says, I've been doing that for a few years now, and I also carry a MiFi with me, which has the same SSID as my home Wi-Fi, so everything just connects as normal. The same tip that you offer with your Barrel AX router, travel router, Pete. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the Dave Abides, not me, says, which is a name I should have been using for a long time because my kids years ago decided to call me dude, not dad. Well, there was a reason for this. It eventually just evolved into Dave, but then it couldn't, so evolved to dude. But when my daughter was at, she was in this jazz band, stage band in middle school with like literally 110 musicians. And the band director's name was Dave. And I was always there doing sound. And there were many other people who would respond to dad at this. And so there was one point where my daughter was trying to get my attention and called, dad, and I, too many people looked. Then Dave and the band director's like, yeah, what can I do for you? And finally she's like, dude. And I was like, yeah. She's like, and that was it ever since then. So the Dave Abides actually fits. But Dave Abides, after that little, I'm back now, says, I've been using the now defunct Chromecast with Google TV dongle, and the remote also has infrared, and it's an easy interface for getting the proper codes so you can control the hotel TV with power and volume. We don't travel often, but the next step is to get a travel router for the family's gadgets. So yeah, get that Apple TV. Love it. Love it. Thank you, DJ Mac.
And I'll add on to that. You talked about the Barrel X router. you can do this overseas because they tend to go, no, you don't get to watch over here. You're out of the country. No TV service for you. So make sure you have a good VPN to your home router at your house, so you appear to be watching from your home.
Huh.
And that way you can still get, and that way if you're on the West Coast, you can still get your East Coast channels or vice versa there. So something to think about there. That if you do that, that's one extra step you're going to want to put in, is the ability to get to your home router.
I don't travel a ton, so I have a question related to this. Are we finally past the days of hotel TVs being like locked out because they don't do their own like movie pay-per-view movie stuff anymore?
But it depends on the hotel.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they're mounted to the wall with almost a half-inch of clearance between the back of the TV.
Well, I remember days when like they'd literally have a physical lockbox around the cables, or even special hotel TVs that only had one HDMI port, right? So like, or, you only had the TV. There was like no input. They would lock out the inputs basically.
That is not, I would say 50% of the time, and Pete, you travel obviously way more than me, but 50% of the time I find that the TV is not really equipped to deal with HDMI input.
Right.
You can, what happens often is, the TV will be built with 4 inputs, but it's in hotel mode. And so only one input works, or the other inputs work, but you have no way of changing to them because the remote that's in the room is not for the TV. It's for the magic box that's on the back of the TV.
Yeah.
And there's no volume buttons on the TV. So what happens to me is if I want to watch something from, say, my iPad or my Mac, I have to unplug the TV box, the external box, because that's the only HDMI port that works. I plug my stuff into that, but now it's at full blast because the volume's controlled by the thing. So I have to use my Mac. I can't use my iPad to do it because it's expecting the volume to be controlled by the device. Whereas on my Mac, I can, there's apps and such that I can use to adjust the volume. Like Sound Source is I rarely use Sound Source on my laptop. I mean, it's running all the time, but the times that I actually use it are to adjust the volume of HDMI sources or destinations in hotel rooms that your Mac cannot adjust the volume of. Like it doesn't provide that functionality, but Sound Source from Rogue Amoeba does. So I will put that in the show notes. That's another one of those
Dan
things.
Cooling in the YouTube comments mentions, there's a time when hotels had panels for those various inputs, and I find that to be the case in like most Marriotts and Hyatts and that sort of thing. The higher end hotels tend to be nicer.
Yes,
about input panels.
Yes, so. The ones that do it right absolutely do it right, and you can just switch and say, oh, I want to use HDMI too, and then you just plug into that, and you're off to the races. But there is a middle ground between it's totally locked down to, we just didn't give you the remote. So I guess you could bring like that IR transmitter thing and then control the TV, but you'd have to roll your own or bring your own.
Yeah. And I think we did something last year at CES to get it. Remember we watched the hockey game? We had to play with it, pull the TV out a good bit and fight with it some. I think we had to unplug the hotel's box and use that HDMI input because the others were dead.
I think that's right. We had to do exactly what I described. Yep. But that was at the Mirage, right? Last year at CES, which was, it was a nice hotel, but that room hadn't been renovated in 30 years. I guarantee it. It was a nice room, big suite and everything, but it was old. Yeah.
It may no longer be standing.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm curious to see what happens. Yeah.
So.
All right.
Well, we got a Don't Get Caught segment this week.
Okay.
Andy wrote in. He goes, perhaps by this gets back to you. By the time this gets back to you, it'll be out of date. This also may be too expensive an alternative. However, there are AirTag holders that use AA batteries, are waterproof, and last for at least 5 years, assuming good quality AA's are used. $20 for one, $40 buys four, and for what it's worth, $30 buys two. I noticed the company below also makes its holders for various situations. One that caught my eye was one that attaches below the water bottle holder on a bike, would make it very hard to detect. Another hides the AirTag inside a reflector. Neither use AA batteries, so those are good for hiding the AirTag rather than longevity. Then he hit us with an update very quickly behind that. I just noticed Elevation Labs does not recommend alkaline batteries and instead lithium, 2 lithium AA batteries, and even bigger possible fire hazard in luggage as there are more bigger batteries, as Pilot Pete stressed. I will ask EL why alkaline are not recommended, but suspect they are short-lived. My very quick search for AA batteries tells me that at present there are only alkaline lithium and nickel metal hydride rechargeable batteries. And I wrote back, first of all, that's great. Ordered a couple.
So wait, what's the don't get caught here? I think we got lost in the murkiness of some of his description.
It may be under the alkaline versus lithium battery. So let's put it in that category.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So because and here's the thing, and I can't stress this enough, folks. Every time I fly, I get what's called a DG sheet, a dangerous goods sheet. And it lists everything that's in the airplane that's explosive, toxic, hazardous chemicals, that kind of stuff. And lithium batteries is one of the things. So frequently the ramp agent will say, hey, no DG tonight, to which I codify that we know of. That stuff gets shipped all the time, and I'm telling you, particularly laptops and bigger lithium batteries are big enough to bring down an airliner. They just are. So when the airlines say, don't put a laptop in your checked luggage, they mean it. And fortunately, the battery manufacturers have all agreed to, this is why when you get a device, it's charged to about 50 or 60%, no more, because when they're not fully charged, they're much less dangerous as far as a fire hazard goes. This is the lithium batteries. Yeah. My summation is that the alkaline batteries will not last as long as Andy said, and so I'm thinking you could probably use the alkaline batteries, but 3 years, and check them then instead of 5 years.
All right, folks, you know how a sleek, well-designed laptop just feels faster? Come on, I know you do. Even though technically it's the same inside, well, it turns out you can have that same effect on people with a custom suit from our sponsor, Indochino. Indochino lets you customize every detail, fabric, lapels, buttons, heck, even the stitching, so your suit feels like it was made just for you. Because it was. And unlike tech, there's no annoying firmware update required. Whether you're dressing for a wedding, a big meeting, or just leveling up your daily look, Indochino's got you covered. Literally. And with prices that won't have you questioning if you need a suit, but rather how many you should get, don't get caught looking like a default settings NPC. Make an entrance as exciting as a new tech reveal with a custom suit from Indochino. Visit Indochino.com and use code MGG to get 20% off any purchase of $4.99 or more. That's 20% off at INDOCHINO.com, promo code MGG, Indochino.com, promo code MGG, and our thanks to Indochino for sponsoring this episode.
Dave.
Adam.
Mace has a question for us.
Okay.
Mace says, my sister was dragged by me into the Apple ecosystem. Sorry she had to be dragged, but glad she's here. She has a Comcast.net email account, and she says every piece of mail that she receives goes straight to deleted items. I suspect there's a simple config setting somewhere. Can you suggest a place to look? I didn't see one that said trash it all.
Yeah. Well, that would be the first one to look for.
It'll cut down on your inbox, though.
It sure would.
How nice would that be? Yeah. 0 inbox.
That's right. So this has to be a rule being employed somewhere. And the somewheres that come to mind first would be a rule in her mail client on her Mac, or a rule in the web interface of her Comcast mail at like mail.comcast.net or whatever it is. I don't know that. It's been a while. But they do have a web interface, and that web interface has rules. So those would be the only two places that come to mind. Well, unless there is another mail client running on another Mac. As far as I know, I haven't come across any mail clients on iPhone or iPad that have rules like this, because they're not running all the time. And I would love it if there was, but it's just not how it is. But web interface rules would be, if you're not seeing anything in rules on her Mac and you're reasonably certain that there's not another computer still logged in. You said she was dragged kicking and screaming by, well, maybe not kicking and screaming, but she was dragged by you into the Apple ecosystem. What did she have before, and where is that computer? Did a rule get set there? So that would be the places to look. And if you can't find it, change her email password. And then that would, in theory, log out any rogue devices. And I don't mean like nefarious, but just old devices. Yes, you're going to have to log back in with one of these, with all of these, but log in one at a time and see what happens, or change the password and then send her an email and see what happens in the web interface, because that would ensure that there's no one else logged in. And now you're, adding one at a time, honoring our troubleshooting process. So that's what I got on that one. Adam or Pete, do you have any thoughts on that?
I had a thought, but I went and checked, and I don't think this is an issue. My thought was, the mailbox behaviors tab. So if you go into your account settings and you look at your account, you have a mailbox behaviors tab, and you can change things like where the trashed mail goes to, where the sent mail goes to, where drafts go to. They don't have to be the folders but it doesn't look like you can do one for the inbox to say, okay, I want my inbox to be my trash
folder.
Yeah, you can't do that. So, but I was like, oh, I wonder if something weird got weird there. No, but I would agree with you. The most likely place I would imagine, because I back in the day had a Cox.net email account, and I think you could set up rules and filters on the server. And so if somehow you set up some weird filter or rule on the server, or somebody else did, somebody hacked your account, who knows? But that would be definitely a place to check.
Yep. I like it. Pete, anything before we
I got nothing, because the only, like I have my own server, and so I can go in and set global email filters, but you can't do that with a Comcast.
with Comcast.
To my knowledge, you can't do that.
Well, maybe they could, but
maybe they could. It might be worth a call to Comcast support.
Yeah, take a look in the web interface first, but if you can't find it, see if they can, at the very least, enlist them to help you figure out, like, where are you seeing devices log into my mail account? They may have to dig to find that information, but like something's doing it. The server would know what caused that to happen. Is it a device? And if so, what's the IP address? That might be helpful. Yeah. I don't know how helpful Comcast will be in providing or even finding that information, but they do have it. So, yep. Rob asks, I was curious to know if you knew of a way via a single pane of glass, so to speak, for a consolidated view of all of the devices tied to an Apple ID. For example, I know you can check for coverage from each respective device, and I'm aware of the page that shows all of your devices at account.apple.com/account/manage/section/devices. But is there a concise way to see all of your covered devices and their expiration dates? I have poked around, and from what I can tell, it isn't possible to get these details in a one-stop shop. So I'm curious if you know of a way to find this. And as always, thanks in advance for your help.
So I went looking as well, and I couldn't find any place where that is. And well, that would be nice for Apple to do that. It doesn't appear that they are doing that. But I did find that if you go to, let me just double check that. There it is. Support. Is it? Yeah.
Account.apple.com.
Support. And signing in and clicking on My Devices under the profile icon, that shows a list of all the devices with their AppleCare status, but you still have to click on each device to see what its status is. It doesn't put it up in a nice chart to go, hey, this is, where you could sort even in order of expiration or something like that. It doesn't do that. But what I started doing to kind of solve this is when I buy a new Apple device, I set a reminder for when AppleCare is going to expire 30 days prior. So it pops up for me, hey, your MacBook Pro is going to expire next month on your AppleCare. And that way I can sell it real quick to somebody. Hey, it's still under warranty.
Well, so
yeah,
I used to do that, Pete, and I still do. Yeah. But what I used to do is I would set it for 2 months prior. Because I always would then work in that first of those lingering 2 months to find something wrong with it that I could send it in to AppleCare because, it's been a while since I've sent a laptop in. This is different than bringing it to the Genius Bar, by the way, because the Genius Bar,
they'll fix what's wrong.
Well, right. They were and perhaps still are incentivized to keep the repair cost as low as possible. Whereas the mail-in depot was incentivized to not get things mailed back to them. So they would go out of their way to find anything and everything they could wrong with it and fix it all. There would be, I would send it in for like, hey, can you take a look? There's like the keyboard feels mushy in the right corner. And not only would they replace the entire upper assembly with the keyboard and the trackpad and all that, they'd swap out the battery. And one time I even had the hard drive replaced. So make sure you keep backups. But I've had displays replaced. They basically refurb your machine, or at least they used to. Now it's been a while since I've done this. But it became my habit for a while to just find an excuse to send it in. And they're pretty quick about it. If you send it in on a Monday, you'll have it back before Friday, typically. Yeah. So, I'd find a window where I wasn't going to be traveling and need my laptop or, whatever the computer was and be like, yeah, all right, go. And then it would extend the life or make it that much more valuable for resale. So, all those things. Yeah.
I don't think I'm missing the question here. I think I have the answer to this.
Amazing.
One is the support app that you can download from Apple. It's an actual app in the App Store, the Apple Support app. If you go to the Apple Support app from the main screen, once you're logged into your account that all your devices are tied to, you hit check coverage and there is a list. And I have every device, my AirPods, all my HomePods, my Apple Vision Pro, every phone that I have owned that I haven't decommissioned. And it says, like the iPhone that I'm using for my camera, my old iPhone 10, says iPhone 10s, coverage expired. For my Apple Vision Pro, it says Apple Vision Pro, AppleCare Plus, it's covered. So you can go in and get more details from there, but every device is there. And then this also exists in your system settings. So if you go into settings on your Mac, you go to General, and you click on AppleCare and Warranty, you will have a full list of all your devices and their current coverage status.
Dude! Yeah, that's it. There they are.
Well, there, son of a gun.
It doesn't list the expiration date. You have to click on a device, but it tells you whether it's active or expired. Yep.
Nice find, Adam. Gosh, that was.
Yeah, man.
Now I feel silly spending all that time hunting around on Apple's website when it was right there on my machine the entire time.
What's really interesting too, and it's actually a little bit annoying, and I don't know when Apple added this, but my work laptop, I have it limited in a very limited way signed into my iCloud account because I want to sync like messages and a couple things. Like I have most syncing turned off, but because of that, that device is in my list, and it says eligible to renew AppleCare Plus. And but on that machine itself, a couple weeks ago, in the software update, I got the little red dot. They are now pushing into software update when you're eligible to renew your AppleCare Plus. So the software update is, hey, give us more money for AppleCare Plus before it expires. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a little bit annoying. It's like it's a little pushy on the sales side, and you're putting it into my operating system and my software updates. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Yeah. If it's a good or a bad thing, I'm still trying to decide, but they are definitely pushing AppleCare Plus subscriptions and renewals now. A little heavier in the operating system.
Interesting.
I have a thing to add before we go to Steve. Were you going to go to Steve, Adam?
I have
you have something
ready for you too, Dave, about this or your thoughts on it. Yeah. Okay. Well, so I was feeling guilty, and I have unlimited care, for, Apple Care for damage and that sort of thing. I'd say about a month after I got this MacBook Pro, it got shoved off a counter and dropped on its corner. So there's just a little dent on the corner. But I thought, well, they're not going to repair that. But it looks like unlimited care for.
Yeah, you might have a $50 deductible on that because it's damage.
Yeah. Unlimited
but still.
repairs for accidental damage. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to feel less guilty about sending it in now, but I will have my hard drive backed up.
Yeah, I mean, we pay a fortune for Apple Care. There's Apple tax on everything, and we're all happy to pay it. And I'm happy to take advantage of all the services that Apple wants to give me for my Apple tax. So
because it'll increase its resale value.
Right. For me.
Yeah. I wouldn't even, get into how my Vision Pro is $24.99 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah. Yep. I wanted to add, circling back to our discussion about hotel rooms and TVs and all that stuff. Matthew Dropko in our YouTube says it might pay to buy a universal remote with extra buttons and throw that in your travel bag, and then you can program it to whatever brand of TV the hotel has. And now you can easily change other inputs. I have one. Like, I definitely have a leftover universal remote. So that's thank you for that, Matthew.
Good tip.
Yeah, it's a good tip.
And I don't even know if they make these anymore. But here's Apple. Are you listening? Apple Watch. So I used to have a little Casio that was a universal remote. And had a ball with that thing. Go to a sports bar, change it to the Spanish channel, that kind of stuff. Drive the bartenders nuts.
Well, you used to be able. MacBooks used to have IR transmitters and receivers on them. That doesn't exist anymore. No. So yeah,
but that would be nice to be able to do that with my Apple Watch. Make it a universal remote.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Steve.
Yeah, Steve has a question for us. He says, I have a 2017 iMac 27-inch with a 5K display. I long ago set it to the default resolution of 2560 by 1440. I want to get an M4 Mac Mini. Can I get the same results with a less expensive monitor with a 2560 by 1440 resolution? I rarely edit photos and videos. Maybe twice a year I've been editing them with the 2560 by 1440 setting. What do you think?
Well, the first thing to talk about is what that 2560 by 1440 setting means, because on your 5K display is actually 5120 by 2880. And for people who do division or multiplication in their heads, you've noticed that 5120 by 2880 is double 2560 by 1440. And what's happening when you set your iMac, your 5K 27-inch iMac, and it's 5K because of that 5120, when you set that to 2560 by 1440, it is actually doing double the resolution of those pixels, and that's how you get Retina displays. So you do not want to trust me on this. You do not. If you haven't trusted me so far, I don't know why you're still listening. But on this one, listen, please do not. You will not be happy with a display that only displays 2560 by 1440. You will want something higher resolution than that, and then you will want to set it, and macOS is great about this, to be an effective 2560, so things are the right size, but look crisp and clear, and you're not seeing pixels because it's a higher def screen. Now, 5K screens have more pixels than 4K screens. That part's obvious. However, a good 4K display, which is 3840 by 2160, can be set to a retinized resolution of 2560 by 1440 and look great with a 27-inch screen. And I can attest to that because I have 4 27-inch screens that I use in my life, 3. 2 here in the studio and 1 in the office. And next to the one in the office that I use is an LG 5K display, which is effectively the same glass that you've got in that 27-inch iMac. And having the two of them right next to each other, both set to 2560 by 1440, my well-experienced in terms of number of years eyes rarely can see a clarity difference between the two screens. I definitely see a color difference between the two and all of that. Downstairs, I have the ViewSonic VP2768A, which is a $530 27-inch screen. I will put all of these in the show notes. Right in front of me here in the studio, I have the Philips Creator Series 27 yada 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 4K display. Again, I'll just put the link in the show notes, and it makes life easier for all of us. That was $700 when it came out. I don't know how much it is right now because it's not for sale on Amazon. I don't know if it's been discontinued or what. But and then if you want that LG 5K display, that's also currently still available. And that is $795, so which is cheaper than it used to be. You can buy the refurb for $795. When I bought the refurb a couple of years ago, it was like $1,000 or $1,100 or something. However, let's all remember that at CES, Pete and I got to see the new upcoming, not yet quite out ViewSonic VP2788 5K display that they say is going to be $799. And that's going to be truly 5K. So I would, regardless, and then I've also used Monoprice displays over the years, and Monoprice is an interesting company. I really like what they do and the way they do it. They, especially with displays, figure out what the most important thing is, aka the glass, and then they put really good glass in with maybe plastic stands and casing and all that stuff to save money. And you can often get a good 4K 27-inch display from Monoprice for, $299 or $350 or something like that. So, but for you, for what you're doing and what you are used to and what all of us are used to, I would say a 4K display that then you run at that 2560 by 1440 is the right way to go. Don't go to it like a lower res display. I don't even know what they call those, but they do exist. Certainly not a 1080p. That would be even lower than what you're looking for. Right. But yeah, be careful. You want at least a 4K display, in my opinion. Do you guys have thoughts on this before we move on?
You're talking to a guy who has 2 cheap 24-inch. I don't know what these are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been able to pull myself into making the investment or purchasing a 4K or 5. I can't believe they're still so dang expensive.
This from a guy with an Apple Vision Pro.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yep.
Hey, we all make choices, Pete.
Yeah, right on.
No, it's true. It's true. Those are the choices we make. Yep. All right, folks, let's talk about our sponsor, BBEdit. Because, candidly, if you're working with text on a Mac and not using BBEdit, what are you even doing? I use BBEdit for so many things, writing show notes, comparing text files, tracking timestamps, coding, even making sure my grocery list doesn't turn into some unreadable JSON mess. In fact, BBEdit is running right now because it's baked into both my Begin the Day script and my Start Podcasting script, just in case I wake up one day and forgot how to do my job. And BBEdit 15 is better than ever. It's got ChatGPT integration, so now when I type something ridiculous, I can immediately ask BBEdit why I thought that was a good idea. Plus, the notes system keeps my random thoughts organized, like that time I needed to remember the exact latency differences between Thunderbolt 4 and 5 and my cat's vet appointment. Bottom line, BBEdit helps me work smarter, faster, and with fewer text-based existential crises. And best of all, it doesn't suck. So head over to barebones.com/store and check it out. And remember, don't get caught using some lesser text editor when BBEdit exists. And our thanks to BBEdit for sponsoring this episode. I got some cool stuff found. Well, Mark M has a cool stuff found. He recommends Keyboard Cowboy, which is a free alternative to Keyboard Maestro / Better Touch Tool. He says, it doesn't quite have the feature set of either of those, but it's free and it does some of that fun stuff. So, yeah, it's available on GitHub, and it does all kinds of different things. You've got your scripting and your kind of more than shortcuts kind of things, and you can attach it to keys and all that. Oh, fun. My sound is cutting out. I love that. That's wonderful. But yeah. So Keyboard Cowboy. Thank you, Mark M. Fun stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So I actually had a cool stuff found this week, and I was just trying to check. I wasn't smart enough or fast enough to check it in time, but Plex, if you've ever wanted a Plex lifetime pass, now would be the time to consider doing it. At least when I did this the other day. Normally it's $60 a year or $200 lifetime for the Plex pass, but it's currently on sale, I believe, for $39.99 a year or $119.99. So $40 for a year or $120 for a lifetime. I bought my lifetime pass for $75 in 2012, and let me say, yeah, it is. They've bolted up.
I can confirm that these prices are still current as of our recording. Yep.
$120 for a lifetime pass is next to nothing. For what you get, I mean, if you like doing your own media service in any way, shape, or form, I have it's probably the best computer software purchase I've ever made as far as value for what you get for what you pay. And here 13 years later, when I bought it for that amount, that $75 back in 2012, I probably went, yeah. It'll be around a couple years, and if it goes away, okay, I've spent $75 for a couple 3 years, but
yep.
Divide 75 into 12, it's cheaper and cheaper every year. So
my recommendation is use the free version.
Yeah.
Take an afternoon this weekend or an evening, whatever, if you've been interested in this. Set up the free version on whatever you're going to set it up on. Your Mac. You could have if you have a Mac server running. If you've got a Synology server, whatever it is, set up with the free version. Test it out. See how you like it, and if you will know fairly quickly whether this is going to be something you're going to use at least semi-regularly or not. And if you are, opening up the features that the Plex Pass gives you, which include the ability to download, you get some better streaming, you get hardware transcoding, those kinds of things are only available with the Plex Pass. So, but you can set it up and run a library no problem with the free version. So set it up for free, and then, once you need that Plex Pass, now's the time. Yep.
Yeah, and it is pretty pilot proof. It's super easy to set up, I found, and been playing with it for years. And I think even if you want to try the full on version, it was at $4.99 for a month.
Yeah, but get it set up first. Like you'll know right away. You don't need those features to get it set up, but once you do, if you're going to use it, you'll want them.
And it's so cool because it's all your media. It's your home movies, your music, your and DVDs that you own. Rip and put it there. I love it.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. That's where my entire former DVD library wound up, and it's great.
Yeah.
As did mine on a now dead Synology drive. Don't. Hey, I backed it up to the other Synology.
You got backups. So exactly. You're good. Chris has one for us. Actually, I think almost for me, but probably anybody who likes board games. I made some picks last time, and he says, you were talking about interactive games recently. Have you seen or played Outsmarted? I haven't. We bought that a couple years ago, and it's been great for us. You might like to give it a try. And he provided a link over to Amazon. It looks like there is a 2024 edition and a 2025 edition. And it has an app. It is an interactive, like live quiz show kind of thing. And you can do up to 24 players. So it looks like a great party game, 2 to 24 players. And they've got interactive questions. You can like stream it up to your TV if you want to like have a whole like game show living room experience. This looks cool. I might have to check this out.
I can recommend this, Adam. Santa brought this to our family for Christmas, and not only can you do it, it's a quiz show. Everybody uses their own device if you want, or you can pass an iPad or even a phone around to do the things. But what's really cool is you don't all have to be in the same place. And so with our family being a distributed family now, where, we did it, where, Lisa and I were here at our house. Lucas was 2 hours away at his house. And then Skylar was 3,000 miles away at her house in Italy. And we all were able to play this game together. It does have a physical board that you can move around. And if you're all playing in the same room, that's fun because you get that tactile, interaction of a board game. But if you're playing it distributed, the board appears on the screen and you just pick on your phone, like what piece, where you roll the die and you pick where you want to move. And it works. It's really well done. Yeah. And you can keep buying more questions as you finish the packs, of course. Obviously.
Of course.
Obviously. And let me tell you how easy it is to spend, whatever it is, $7 on a pack when you're like, oh, that game was fun. Let's get more questions. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Which is great. I mean, that's how this kind of stuff should be, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. And what's its platform? It runs on Mac OS?
No.
All? No.
iPhone, Android. It's really iPhone, Android, or iPad.
Okay.
It's been maybe a month since we played it. That the Amazon listing says smart TVs. There is not an Apple TV app for this. What we do is we take one iPad and AirPlay it to the screen, and then that worked.
Okay.
So, but it works. It's fine. Yeah. So.
Sounds very much like a Jackbox experience.
It's in that vein for sure. Yep.
That would be my other recommendation. Yeah, Jackbox games for this kind of thing.
Yep.
Wait, so you said there's not an app for the Apple TV, but you just AirPlay it.
Correct.
Do you know, does it support SharePlay?
So I don't think it does its own thing. Like you're not. I don't think it uses SharePlay. No. But it has you get a code that you just, the person who's hosting the game gets a code, and then you give that to all the other players, and then they're suddenly just there, and it works.
Yeah. No, I was thinking more from the perspective of, you have the app running, and then with SharePlay running, the ability to have video going like yeah. Oh, good question. It has its own audio
chat.
Okay.
As the game's going. Yes, it certainly does. And it will duck that down. We wind up playing a lot of the categories that have, it plays a song and you've got to answer a question about what song is it or, whatever. And so it will duck the voice chat when one of those happens and then bring it back. So yeah, we were able to stay in voice contact with each other. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. That's right. I forgot what SharePlay did. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I got to use SharePlay more.
It's great for movies. Like,
is it?
I've watched movies with my daughter, and because it's on the Apple TV, I'll just take my iPhone and set it up in front of the TV so she has a view of the living room, and then I can see her on the. It's great. It's really.
And you don't find it distracting from the movie?
No.
Oh, okay, I got to try this.
I mean, it depends on the movie,
obviously.
Yeah. But, if we're just doing like a casual movie we've seen a bunch of times and we're just kind of hanging out,
Yeah,
it can be great.
And I got to try it.
And we've done it with music too. Like, she'll have a new song that comes out. She's like, "Dad, you got to hear this." And then we share the song, in real time with video and.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's the human element to it that I hadn't thought about before. All right. I like this.
It recreates that, you're in the same space kind of thing. And with the movie, you can, anybody can pause it and it pauses for everybody. And, it's that whole experience, right? It's like, I'm going to go grab some snacks.
Now my question is, does Plex have SharePlay? Because Plex has its own watch together thing. So in a sense, yes. So yeah, all right, yeah. Huh? Okay. Cool. I'm back. One last cool stuff found. Randy Walker suggests DeskPad. He says certain workflows require sharing the entire screen, usually due to switching through multiple applications. But if the presenter has a much larger display than the audience, it can be hard to see what's happening. DeskPad. So the problem is you're on a Zoom call. You don't just want to share one window. You want to share your whole screen so people can see what you're doing. But if you're on one of those 27-inch screens, like I always am, that can be weird for someone who's on a laptop and watching your Zoom in a window and not really being able to see what you want them to see. So enter DeskPad. It creates a virtual display that is mirrored within its application window so that you can create a dedicated, easily shareable workspace. Love that. And what I love even more is that DeskPad is on GitHub, which tells me it's free. A virtual monitor for sharing. Yeah. So then you just share that screen, but it appears it's got menus, it's got all the things. Oh, this seems like voodoo. I like this. How do they do this? Huh. Yeah, it's a virtual display. Fascinating.
So it's a virtual display that's at a different resolution that you share. Is that the idea?
Yeah,
so you
would set it to be smaller, at whatever size you actually want. Yep. You can download it from there. You can install with Homebrew. Brew install DeskPad. You're done.
Nice.
Yes. But what also is nice about this is sometimes I want to share my display without sharing my display, right? Like, I don't want people getting distracted by whatever I have on my desktop or whatever other apps I have open. But so even if the size is not the issue, just the cleanliness of it, if you will.
There you go.
And, yeah. Presentations are always better when you have a clean desktop. It sounds better when it's clean.
It's a good use for spaces.
It is, but if I want to, in the middle of something, go and look at an iMessage or something,
right?
Like that now, or check something in my. Somebody asks a question. It's like, oh, we had an email about that. Now suddenly they're seeing every email that I'm, scanning past. Not so good. I'm wondering if I want to do this for the show. Because when we want to share and show things, this would be the way to do it, guys.
Yeah, you won't get caught.
I won't get caught, but I'll also have a lot more flexibility because what I don't want to do is show my desktop that has all my audio stuff, if all I'm trying to do is show like a one thing. So, yeah. All right. The wheels are spinning, which they have been the whole time. My apologies for my distraction with the spinning wheels. But, that's how it goes.
Well, hardly notice. It's something you've gotten kind of good at over the years.
Well,
Not your first show. This is not show one.
No, it's not show one. No, it's not. All right, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Our monthly giveaway, which I got all distracted in the beginning and didn't remind us about, is you can win one of 5 copies of Carbon Copy Cloner / CCC Backup from Bombich. So go to MacGeekGab.com/giveaway to register for that. And thanks to them for doing that with us. Thanks to CashFly for providing all the bandwidth to get the show from us to you. Speaking of Adam and his daughter watching movies together, go check out the podcast where they talk about the movies they've watched. Not all of them, but some of them, certainly, at the Debut Film Podcast. Pete mentioned he was a pilot a few times. If you didn't know, his name's Pilot Pete.
A guy at the party's a pilot? He'll tell you.
He'll tell you. That's right. What happens if you're a vegan pilot? No, never mind. So There I Was is Pete's podcast for pilots. Wow, Pilot Pete's podcast for pilots. Love that. I also do 2 other shows, Business Brain and Gig Gab, for entrepreneurs and musicians, and not necessarily in that order. Thank you for hanging out. It's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun. And it's been so much fun, guys. I propose that we should do this again next week.
I'm in.
And we might have an iPhone new SE, like the iPhone SE4, to talk about next week. I mean, I don't think I'll have one, but there might be one in existence to talk about. I think that's coming Wednesday. And maybe other things. I don't know. I truly don't know. I do know one thing, though, that Pete's shirt has words on it. Somebody want to say those words?
Go ahead, Adam.
Don't get caught.
Made on a Mac.
Later.
We're out.